Hey, distance learners. Today we're going to be talking about theme. This is something we've definitely talked about before in the past, and I'm going to give you guys a brief review on this so that we can get set up to do our assignments for today and for tomorrow. So, the definition of theme. A theme is a main universal idea from a literary work that can be connected to the real world and life. Let's look at this. So, main idea. We all know what the main idea of a passage is. This is something that we've been doing since the second grade, so I'm not going to review this. But universal, this is a word that kind of might be a little bit confusing if we don't know what this means. So the word universal in this case here has a few different meanings. So if we're looking at universal, that means that it's connected to everyone. Something that's universal is something that everyone has the potential to understand. So that means that a theme is something that everyone can understand without having to read the story or the poem that we're getting a theme from. So in this case here, a theme, you've probably heard it referred to before as a moral or a lesson of a story. So that kind of keep that in mind as you think about universal, because the words universal and the lesson that would come from a story being the theme there, you don't necessarily need to have read the story in order to understand what moral lesson you'll get at the end if someone tells you what the moral lesson is. So when we write a theme, we need to make sure that it's a universal thing. And the next thing that's universal means is that it could come from anywhere, meaning that if we read a story, a theme could potentially come from any type of story. If a theme is too specific to the story, something like mentioning the characters' names or mentioning something that only shows up in that book, then it is not universal, meaning it connects to everything. All right, literary work is anything like a poem, a story, a short story, a novel, anything that we read ever is a literary work. So even like an informational article is a literary work. All right, and then can be connected to the real world and life. This ties into our moral or our lesson part of this. We have to be able to connect it to our real life, our real experiences, and it's not just this general any combination of fancy words. So we need to make sure that it's actually realistic and real. All right, the next thing that we're going to do and look at is some examples of common themes. You've probably heard these before, so they're in a lot of different stories. One is Beware of Strangers. You probably think of a few stories like that. Little Red Riding Hood, a lot of the fairy tales that have bad guys in it. They disguise themselves as a stranger. If you love something, let it go. This is popular in a lot of songs. Another one, Believe in Yourself. To succeed, we must first believe that we can. People are afraid of change, but things always change. Things are not usually as bad as you think they will be, and love triumphs over all hate, selfishness, cruelty, tragedy, and death. So those are some examples of common themes. Let's look at things that a theme is. We're going to look at some things that a theme is not. So a theme, we always want to make sure that it's a full sentence or a complete thought. A theme is never, ever, ever one word. So that is really important. Someone ever tells you, oh, the theme of that story is love, you can look them in the face and say, nope, definitely not. Why? That's one word. Another thing is a theme could be found in almost any story, meaning that it's universal. It's not specific to that story. All right, it's also the central idea of a story. Often the theme is the same thing in literature as a central idea. An observation about human life or human behavior. Like I said, it needs to be universal, meaning that it's connected to the real world and everyone has the potential to understand it. All right, and the other thing is that a theme should be expressed in your own words. If you're just copying cliches or things that you've heard a lot and making those as your theme, then you're not doing this correctly because it needs to be put in your own words. And then sometimes a theme is based, so there is a variance or difference in what you might think the theme is, because we all have different human experiences to a degree. So if your theme is a little bit differently worded than someone else's, that's a potential. All right, like I said, a theme is not one word or a topic. Something that's one word is often a topic. It's not the subject, like what the topic or subject is. It's not about the plot. It has nothing to do with the events that take place. So if I told you that a theme of Cinderella is that Cinderella met the prince at the ball, because that's a summary of something that happened in the story. Like I said, it's not what the story is about. And it's not a cliche, meaning that it's not something that you hear a lot or a common phrase. It needs to be put in your own words. All right, the last thing you can do We're going to look at these first 3 questions. These are some questions that you can ask yourselves to help determine the theme. What real life issues are reflected in this text? So what real life topics or things are being discussed? Is family being discussed? Is death being discussed? Is loss being discussed? Is love being discussed in this story? So some of those topics are connected to the theme, but those aren't themes themselves. So figuring out some of these topics can be helpful for us when trying to decide what the actual lesson or theme is. All right. And then after we've identified some of those issues, what is the author trying to teach or say about those issues? Are they saying that loss is something that's easy to get over? Are they saying that loss takes time to heal from, especially when you lose someone or something important to you? What is the author trying to imply about these things? All right. And the last question, what point is the author trying to make through writing this story? Or if it's a short story, AKA, what is their argument? What is their main idea? If you had to imagine what this main point or main argument, main thing the author would want to convince you of, then that would be really close to the theme. So keep those questions in mind. All right, I'm going to show you guys what we're doing for our assignments for today and for tomorrow. They're similar to what we did on Monday and Tuesday, but it's with theme this time. So you're going to have a couple of multiple choice questions to start after reading a few short little excerpts/stories. Then you're going to have a longer story that you need to read, and then you have 2 questions about what the theme is, and then some text evidence that helps you define and find out what that text evidence is. All right, and this next one is for Friday, you're going to match some of these quotes to some of the themes that they correspond with. So you've got a couple matching ones, and then you have some true or false questions. So it's going to ask, this is a theme, and then you're going to decide true or false for 5 questions. Then you have 2 last stories, 2 kind of shorter ones, and decide the theme and some text evidence that helps support it. And then for this one here, you read another story, decide the theme, then find some text evidence to support it. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Have a great day.